I'm certainly delighted to be the chairman. I'm looking forward to building on the very considerable foundations left by Professor McGregor. He left the organisation in good fettle, financially and in membership terms, and I want to acknowledge that and thank him formally for myself, and indeed for that matter other members of the board. In addition to which, there are quite a lot of retiring members, and I do think, although I don't know most of them, I do think it's appropriate to mention them by name. The retiring members, and if I get these names wrong, I'm sorry: Anne Brooks, Karen Garmery, Anne Meikle, Ian Page, Brian Patterson, David Roberts, Jeff Robson and Alistair Shaw. My thanks to all of you for your contribution. People clearly give their time and effort on a voluntary basis, and it's something which is deeply appreciated by all of us. I'd also like to thank for a very considerable body of work that Robert Pollock put in as the interim chair. He was of huge assistance to me in the transitional period over the last several weeks, and frankly I've been absent without official leave for domestic reasons. So in particular I want to acknowledge the work that Robert put in that time. Inevitably the organisation is run on a day-to-day basis above and beyond by Elaine and Yvonne, and I want to say thank you to them for all their continuing efforts over the years, and in particular recently to me personally. I'm very keen to have vice chairs, and to that end I have asked Suzanne Hamilton and Robert Pollock if they'd be willing to stand in that capacity. I think it creates continuity, builds an experience, and I'm very pleased to say both of them have agreed to do that, and I'm very grateful for that. So moving on then, I think it's also appropriate to acknowledge that you as members give your time freely, and I think that's important as well. I'd like to actually get more traction from the membership. Sitting at the back of the hall is a lady I've not seen in a long time, but it's Jean Hamilton, and I guess none of us would be here if Jean hadn't had the foresight at the time to put EDAS together. And nice to see you again, Jean, and thank you for doing that. We do have some formal business to transact, but I do want to say a few words about what I think we perhaps should be thinking about doing as we move forward. As I've just said, we are a membership-based organisation. We have individual and corporate members, and whether individual or corporate, they have every right to expect their views will be listened to, and we avoid any course of action which will embarrass or alienate individuals or the businesses, corporations, whatever they happen to be they represent. I'm especially aware of the fact this is true for public sector members. We have large public sector member organisations. They're in a very sensitive position, and whereas I want to see EDAS become more vocal on a whole variety of national economic development issues, we can only do so in the full knowledge that we have to take our members along with us, and we cannot afford, nor should we in any way attempt to embarrass any member at all, and I want to make that very clear. However, we can and should identify key policy areas such as economic growth, Scotland's challenging demographic changes, drivers and constraints to innovation, something I'm personally very interested in, the future of employability, the future of city regions, membership of the EU, something we discussed over dinner last night. There's a lot more to be done, I think, in the third sector, and probably I think we need to extend our reach into education at all levels. None of these issues, and there are many I've missed, requires us to take a position per se. No, we can't really, but what we can do is identify the range of issues implicit in each of these important areas, bring to it a body of knowledge and evidence from individual members, from personal experiences, and above all, an evidence-based solution to some of the great conversations that will occur regardless of what happens in the referendum, because Scotland has an extremely important set of challenges around productivity, innovation, ageing population to deal with. EDAS, I think, should be very prominent in commenting on the kind of things we need to be aware of in these areas. That said, and meant, I firmly believe that EDAS is in a great position, given its diversity and influential member base, to be a thought leader in all things germane to economic development in Scotland, to a point where anyone, individual or corporate, public, private, who who has an interest in economic development just needs to be a member of this organisation, because it gives him or her a voice and an insight into developing trends. So a clear byproduct of this approach should be almost essentially an obligatory born of influence, an obligatory membership well beyond the current base, which is very strong. So I'd like to, over the next year or so, deeply extend the membership by representation regionally and by all other means across Scotland. So how do we make this happen? Well, firstly, we tap into your knowledge. We have a great body of experience, empirical, evidential, and whatever, that we need to draw on to make sure that when EDAS makes a statement, it does so with full knowledge of all the members, and that they feel as if they are participating in what we are doing. We also need, therefore, the technology to make this happen. That's something which Professor McGregor and the board were looking at before I arrived. We will be developing higher technology influence than we have been able to bring to bear so far. We hope to do that sometime in the autumn, and we'll return to that in due course. But in any event, we clearly need to make much more of the social technology, the social network technologies that are presently out there, and we need to communicate much more regularly, I think, with you as members. In addition, we should be holding things which I gather were quite common in the past: seminars, discussion groups, and membership polling, so that over time we begin, as I said earlier, to build a reputation which is much deeper than we presently have across all parts of the country. There is already an extremely good CPD offering. It's clear from the members of the board I've spoken to that there's an enthusiasm to extend that, and again, that's something we'll also be looking at over the next 12 months or so. As we shall see presently, we have a very healthy, if modest, surplus. We should be using that for reinvestment purposes wisely. We need to build a new technology base, we need to create new CPD, and we need to commission, where appropriate, bodies of work on economic development issues, which you all as members regard as very important. And again, we'll be returning to that. Above all, and most immediately, to make all of that happen, we need a strategy for EDAS, and as I said earlier to some members, the process for the strategy is almost as important as the strategy itself, because we are membership-based, because we have public, private, individual members. We need to ensure that the process that leads to the strategy is very inclusive and very deep. So that's an issue we'll be turning our attention to immediately, and you'll be hearing more on that in due course. So first order of business is the strategy, because the strategy makes possible all of the other things, whether it's CPD or improved communications or growing influence, that we all wish to see happen. I believe, based on what I've been told, that there's a deep desire to reinvigorate the subgroups which have existed in the past. And again, we'll be returning to that. There are already, there's an active membership group, there's an active policy group. We'll be ensuring that they are widened as well. Finally, Scotland needs an inclusive, non-political, wide membership-based organisation dedicated to economic development issues. We need to be cognizant of the emerging trends in the subject, motivated by a desire to inform and comment on issues objectively, authoritatively, as a thought leader. We need, above all, to be strongly evidence-based in everything we do, and EDAS has the potential, through the members, to be that organisation. And with your help, I'm absolutely sure that over the next 12 months and beyond, we can make that happen, building on the excellent work and legacy that Professor McGregor and the board left.